Hi everyone. Some of my subscribers have asked me if I do a real-time video demonstrating some of the methods that I use in my drawings. Angelica actually asked me if I'd demonstrate how I draw trees and maybe show some of the materials that I use. I'll certainly do that, but I can't show all the materials I use because I've got far too many and that'll be a separate video all on its own. But I can show you the materials I'm actually using for the demonstration. And by the way, if you think I'm talking quietly, I apologise because in between me and the table that I'm writing on, I've got the tripod there with the camera on it, and the camera's right in my face, and if I talk too loudly, the microphone will distort, so I'm sorry if I sound a little bit mumbly and a bit quiet. But anyway, first of all, one of the obvious basic materials you'll need is a humble pencil. This is just an HB pencil. It's made by Derwent. You can just use whatever you've got, it doesn't really matter. You can use your school pencil, your office pencil, it really doesn't matter, as long as it's not too gritty or scratchy at the end, it's nice and smooth, it'll be fine. Okay, so we've got the pencil. Next, I use graphite sticks, or woodless pencils as they're actually called. For obvious reasons, there's no wood casing on them at all, it's just a solid stick of graphite. And it's been lacquered over lightly on the outside so that you don't get graphite all over your fingers and the end is left bare. You can actually draw with all of that to get some nice, thick, expressive lines, and you can use the point to do finer lines. But what I like about them is I scrape the end with a knife blade and I get graphite powder. I don't actually buy graphite powder, and the reason being, when you actually buy it, it just says graphite powder. You don't know what grade it is. It could be really light, it could be really dark. I just haven't got a clue. And that can be a real problem if you want to sprinkle some light graphite powder down to make a sky, and then some darker graphite powder to do some trees or something. You could end up putting really dark powder on for a sky and it just look a right mess. So I like these woodless pencils. I've actually got 5 of them in different degrees of hardness, ranging from HB up to 8B. They really are good tools for drawing. I really do recommend these. You know, like I say, I can scrape some HB graphite powder into the sky, and then I can use sort of 8B or 6B or 4B, 2B, whatever, in other areas of the picture to achieve the correct tone. So there we go. These are actually made by Kohinoor. They're not too expensive, but they last for ages. I mean, just look at the thickness of that graphite. It's going to last you for ages. So I really do recommend those. Okay, continuing on. We have the paper blender, or blending stump. I prefer these over the tortillion, which is very similar, but it's hollow and a lot harder. I find these softer and much nicer to use. I prefer them when they're used and they're dirty as well. You can actually draw with these on their own, use them as a pencil. You know, you can get some really nice sort of smudgy effects with them. So I never really bother cleaning these, I just leave them nice and dirty, and you know, really nice to use like that. Obviously, their obvious use is, you know, for blending out pencil areas, what you've drawn in. You know, it'll just blend those out lovely, so you get nice soft edges. Okay, so that's that. And the other thing I use is a eraser pencil. I've actually got 2 of these. It doesn't really matter which you use. I've got a Derwent and a Faber-Castell. The reason I've got 2 is, oh, hang on, let me just wipe that, that's a bit dirty. The reason I've got 2 is, I don't know if you can see, if the camera will focus, can you see that? Yeah, one's got a white rubber and the other one's got a red rubber. Now the Faber-Castell, this one, it's a really great pencil eraser, it really is, and I use it quite a lot, but the rubber on it, on the tip there, is quite hard, quite dry, and you sort of have to move it a bit to agitate the graphite to remove it. But with the Derwent, that white rubber or latex or whatever it is they're using is quite sticky. Well, it's not sticky, it's not like sellotape or anything, but it's slightly tacky, and you only sort of have to touch on the graphite and it kind of sticks to it. Let me see if I can get that in focus. Can you see that? That's just a few touches on the graphite, no rubbing or anything, and the graphite just sticks to it. So you can get much finer detail with this. You know, if you just got to sort of touch something, you'll get a fine spot, but if you actually have to rub something, it's going to give you a bigger mark, and you know, it's less detail, I suppose. But you just use whatever you've got. I'm not, you know, saying one's better than the other, because it's just my preference. I use both, and at the minute I'm just preferring the Derwent for doing tree highlights. But this I use for all sorts of other things. So, okay. And finally, you all know what these are. The Kneaded eraser or kneadable eraser. I use these for the same principle as the pencil erasers, really. I scrunch the end up like that into a fine tip, and I go in there and make a few highlights and little marks and everything. And you can also flatten the end off like that, and you can use it as a pounce to go like that, and you can create some really nice misty effects, or just lighten up the graphite that you've just put down. And of course, it's got the obvious use of it's an eraser. So don't just think of these as erasers just for removing mistakes or anything like that. They are in fact really valuable drawing tools in their own right. And you'll see me use these quite a lot in the tree demonstration. Right, I've already recorded the video for the tree because I can't talk and draw at the same time. I've got typical bloke syndrome, I think. Can't do two things at once, and I can't multitask. So I've already recorded the video of the tree, and I'll cut straight into that at the end of this. But what I'm going to do is a middle distance tree, very similar to the ones in this picture. I think you've probably all seen this in my last video. These sort of middle distance trees where you just start to see a few branches coming through and highlights on the leaves. They're not too detailed, but they're not that blurry that they're completely in the background. So I'll demonstrate that for you. So the next thing you'll see, I'll cut straight to the video of the tree. And if you've got any comments or any questions or even criticisms, just leave them in the comments section and I will get back to you. So thanks for viewing.